Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at a really interesting research paper about AI and something called theory of mind.
Yeah.
You familiar with that term at all?
Yeah, so theory of mind, it's basically the ability to understand that other people or other agents could have different thoughts, beliefs, and knowledge than you do.
Okay.
So like being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and imagine what they might be thinking or feeling, even if it's different from your own perspective.
It's like having a mind reader built in.
Yeah, in a way.
But the thing that has everyone in the AI world so excited is whether these large language models, the ones that can write poems and hold conversations,
Right.
whether they actually possess theory of mind.
Yeah, there's been a lot of debate about that, and a new research paper called ExploreToM really puts that idea to the test.
Okay, so tell me about ExploreToM. What is it?
Well, it's this really clever framework that the researchers developed, and it basically uses an algorithm called a search and a custom language that they created to craft stories that are specifically designed to test an LLM's grasp of theory of mind.
So instead of those simple tests that we use for kids, like the Sally Ann test,
Right, exactly.
ExploreToM really throws some curveballs at the AI.
Yeah, it's like designing a mystery novel, but with these built-in mind games.
I like it.
So, like, imagine a scenario where you have a chef in a kitchen and they salt an apple, but then someone moves it to a different location.
Oh?
Now, the AI has to keep track of not just where the apple is physically, but also what each character in the story thinks about the apple's location and whether it's salted or not.
Okay, so it has to keep track of the physical reality of the story,
Yeah,
but also the beliefs of each of the characters.
exactly. It's about understanding the different perspectives and how they might differ from reality.
I can see how that would be tricky even for a human sometimes.
Right.
So what happens next in this culinary mystery?
Well, so ExploreToM then generates these tricky questions that are posed to the AI.
Okay.
Like, does the head chef know that the pastry chef knows the apple is salted? So these questions are designed to probe the AI's understanding of each character's beliefs and their knowledge about the situation.
So it's not just about knowing facts, it's about knowing what other people know.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. How did the AI do in this culinary mind game?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Even the most advanced LLMs like Llama 3.170B and GPT-4o, they performed terribly on these ExploreToM tests.
Really?
Yeah.
How bad are we talking?
I mean, think single-digit accuracy. Some models scored as low as 0%.
Oh, wow.
And GPT-4o, which is considered one of the most capable LLMs out there, only achieved 9% accuracy.
That's a failing grade for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But why are these supposedly intelligent systems struggling so much with something as fundamental as understanding other minds?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And ExploreToM gives us some pretty crucial clues. It turns out that LLMs have a lot of trouble even with basic state tracking.
What do you mean by state tracking?
So just keeping up with the location of objects in a story, for example.
Okay, so like in our chef story, knowing where the apple is at all times.
Exactly. They get easily confused, especially when there are multiple characters and actions happening all at once.
So it's not just about understanding beliefs, it's about keeping up with the basic facts of the story as well.
Right. And here's another thing. Most of the data that LLMs are trained on doesn't actually require theory of mind reasoning. If you think about it, most text online focuses on just conveying information, not really on this subtle dance of beliefs and intentions between people.
So they become really good at language and processing information,
Yeah.
but they haven't really learned to read minds, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. They've been training for a different kind of intelligence test, you know?
So ExploreToM is showing us that the way we've been evaluating these AI models might not be capturing the full picture.
Exactly. It's challenging our assumptions about what these models can and can't do.
It sounds like this ExploreToM research is shaking things up in the AI world.
Yeah, it's definitely making people rethink some things.
But what does this mean for the future of AI development? Can we actually teach these systems to understand our minds better?
Well, the researchers did something really fascinating. They took some LLMs and fine-tuned them specifically on ExploreToM data.
Oh, so they gave the AI a crash course in theory of mind.
Exactly. And the results were actually quite promising. One model showed a 27-point improvement on a classic theory of mind benchmark after this targeted training.
27 points, that's a huge leap.
It is, yeah.
So there's hope for these AIs to become more socially adept.
It seems, so this suggests that with the right kind of training, we might be able to bridge that gap between AI and human-like social understanding.
So it's not just about making AI more intelligent in general.
Right.
It's about teaching them to think more like us, to understand the social world that we live in.
Exactly. And that raises some really interesting questions about how we design and evaluate these increasingly powerful systems.
This is really fascinating stuff. It sounds like we need to rethink how we approach AI training and evaluation if we want to unlock its true potential. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's take it one step at a time.
Before we dive deeper into those implications, let's take a moment to recap what we've learned so far about ExploreToM and its surprising findings.
Yeah, so ExploreToM has basically shown us that even these super advanced LLMs, they struggle with theory of mind, something that we humans just do naturally, you know?
Right. We just take it for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, what does this actually mean for the future of human-AI interaction if AI can't understand our minds?
Well, think about all the ways we rely on theory of mind every single day. You know, we work together on projects, we negotiate deals, we offer support to each other.
Yeah.
And we just kind of assume that the people we're interacting with, they can understand our intentions, what we're thinking, and respond in a way that makes sense.
Right. We assume that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, but if AI systems don't have that ability, then that could lead to all sorts of miscommunications, misunderstandings, even conflicts, you know?
Right. It's like trying to talk to someone who speaks a different language.
Yeah, exactly. Even if they're using the same words, the meaning might not be getting across.
And that could be really problematic in certain situations.
Absolutely, especially as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
Right. I mean, imagine you're trying to collaborate with an AI on a creative project,
Yeah.
but it just keeps misinterpreting your suggestions or missing the nuances of your ideas.
Yeah, or what about an AI therapist that's supposed to provide emotional support,
Right.
but it can't actually grasp the emotional state of the patient? That could be really harmful.
That's a really good point. It raises some serious ethical questions about using AI in sensitive areas like healthcare or education or even customer service.
Yeah, definitely. If we can't be sure that AI understands us, how can we trust them to make decisions that affect our lives?
And it makes me think about how we humans learn theory of mind.
Yeah.
You know, we're basically immersed in a world of social interaction from the moment we're born.
Right.
We observe,
Yeah.
we imitate, we experiment, we make mistakes.
We learn from each other.
Yeah, it's a messy process, but it works.
Yeah, but AI systems, they're trained on these massive data sets of text and code.
Right, it's a very different kind of learning environment.
Exactly. And that kind of data, it might capture the patterns of language, but it doesn't really capture the richness and complexity of how humans actually interact in the real world.
It's like trying to learn to swim by reading a book.
Yeah.
You know, you might understand the theory, but you won't really know how to do it until you get in the water.
Exactly. You need that hands-on experience.
So how do we get AI to jump in the water, so to speak?
That's the big question.
How do we help them develop a more intuitive understanding of theory of mind?
Well, I think part of it is exposing them to a wider range of human interactions, you know, not just text, but also conversations, stories, scenarios that involve deception or manipulation.
Like create a theory of mind gym for AI.
Yeah, I love that analogy, a theory of mind gym, where they can really exercise those mental muscles.
And just like a good gym, it needs to have a variety of training equipment and techniques.
Exactly. So we need to develop a bunch of different approaches for teaching AI about theory of mind.
And this is where the idea of adversarial training comes in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So instead of just giving AI these easy examples, we need to challenge them with situations that force them to think critically about mental states.
Right. It's like having a really tough coach who pushes you to your limits.
And helps you identify your weak spots.
Exactly. So in the context of theory of mind, adversarial training is about creating scenarios that expose the gaps in an AI's understanding of how humans reason.
And ExploreToM with its intricate stories and those really tricky questions. That was a form of adversarial training, right?
Absolutely. It was like putting the AI through a mental boot camp.
And it showed us just how much work we still have to do.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call for sure.
But it's also helping to guide the development of better AI systems.
Definitely by revealing the limitations of current LLMs. ExploreToM is helping us to build more robust and more reliable AI.
It's like we're entering this new era of AI development where understanding the human mind becomes just as important as mastering language and logic.
Yeah, it's a really exciting and challenging frontier.
So far, we've talked about the limitations of current AI models,
Yeah.
the need for more advanced training methods, and the ethical considerations.
Right.
But I'm curious, could AI actually help us to understand the human mind better?
That's a really fascinating question, and I think the answer is yes. AI can process these huge amounts of data,
Right.
and identify patterns that we might not even notice.
So by studying how AI learns and reasons about theory of mind, we might actually gain new insights into how our own minds work.
Yeah, it's like holding up a mirror to our own cognitive processes, seeing them reflected through the lens of AI.
It's like having a new research assistant who can help us to see things in a different way.
Exactly, and that could lead to some really groundbreaking discoveries.
It's a powerful reminder that the quest to understand the human mind isn't just a solo mission.
Right.
It's a collaborative effort that involves scientists, psychologists, computer scientists, and AI researchers all working together.
And that collaboration is going to be key as we continue to develop more advanced AI systems.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, but before we wrap up, there's one more aspect of this research that I wanted to touch on. ExploreToM revealed that even something as basic as state tracking is a major challenge for AI.
Yeah, that was one of the most surprising findings.
It seems so counterintuitive that something we humans do so effortlessly,
Right.
like keeping track of where things are or who said what, could be such a stumbling block for these advanced AI systems.
It is surprising, but it really highlights the differences between human and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's like we don't even have to think about it.
Right, it's just automatic for us.
But for AI, it's this huge hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, it really is. You see, for humans, state tracking is just so deeply ingrained in how we experience the world, you know? We're constantly updating our mental model of where things are, what's happening, who's doing what. It's just how we make sense of things.
But AI doesn't have that kind of built-in intuition.
Not yet, anyway.
So even before it can start to understand someone's beliefs or intentions, it needs to have this really solid grasp of the basic facts of the situation.
Yeah, it's like building a house, you know?
Yeah.
You can't start putting up the walls and the roof until you have a strong foundation.
And what ExploreToM showed us is that this foundation, this ability to accurately track states, is often missing or incomplete in these LLMs.
Right, they get lost in the details, they misinterpret events, and they just struggle to keep up with how the situation is changing.
It makes me wonder if maybe the way we're training AI is just fundamentally flawed, you know?
That's a good question.
We're giving them all this data, but are we really teaching them to think like humans?
Maybe not. Maybe we need to shift our focus a bit. You know, instead of just throwing more data at the problem, maybe we need to focus on teaching AI how to reason more logically, more systematically.
Like teaching them to think more like a detective, you know, carefully gathering evidence and piecing together the clues.
Exactly. We need AI that can not only process information, but also understand the cause and effect relationships between events.
The why behind the what.
Yeah, and that brings us back to this idea of domain-specific languages, which ExploreToM uses really effectively.
Right.
By defining a clear set of actions and rules, it gives the AI this framework for understanding these more complex scenarios.
It's like giving them the tools they need to solve a specific kind of problem.
Exactly. And as we saw, fine-tuning these models on that kind of carefully crafted data led to some pretty significant improvements.
So it's not just about the quantity of data, it's about the quality and the structure of the data as well.
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing to think that by giving AI this glimpse into how our minds work, how we reason about social situations,
Yeah.
we might actually be able to bridge the gap between human and artificial intelligence.
It's a really exciting possibility, and I think it also has the potential to help us understand ourselves better. You know, by studying how AI learns, we can learn more about how we learn.
It's like a two-way street.
Exactly, a feedback loop between human and artificial intelligence.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways you'd like our listeners to walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest one is don't believe all the hype. You know, AI has come a long way, but it still has a long way to go when it comes to understanding something as complex as the human mind.
Right.
We need to be realistic about the limitations of current technology.
But also optimistic about the future.
Exactly. Research like ExploreToM is so important because it pushes the boundaries of AI development.
And it helps us identify the areas where we need to improve.
Right. And as we continue to explore this new frontier, we need to do it responsibly, ethically, and with a deep understanding of the potential consequences.
Because the future of AI isn't something that's predetermined.
Yeah.
It's something that we're all actively shaping with the choices we make today.
And that's a really big responsibility.
Well, this has been a truly mind-expanding deep dive into the world of AI and theory of mind.
It's been a pleasure.
You've given us a lot to think about.
Likewise.
To our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey into the frontiers of intelligence.
Keep those minds curious.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the ideas that are shaping our world.